Hi everybody, here's a little introduction to using pottery clay or natural clay, and I'm just going to give you a few basics here, and the rest is going to be in the page for this module. So this is some Laguna porcelain clay, and I bought it at Riley Street Art Supply in Santa Rosa. The best place to get clay, although there are some clay companies you can order it from, is usually at an art supply store. So in Santa Rosa we have Riley Street, and also the one in Montgomery Village, I'm not remembering the name. You probably could get this through Michael's, but you'd probably have to order it, and they deliver it, or you can pick it up in the store. So pottery clay is natural, it comes from the earth, and it lasts for a long time as long as you keep it correctly. So a couple of things you're going to want to have to use pottery clay. This is a clay wire or a clay cutter, and I did get this at Riley Street. You can make one. Also, you can use a good firm cotton string will work for this too. So you can cut clay with string or with a wire, and so I'm just going to kind of show you how you do that right now. So I'm just going to wrap it through here. Clay's nice and soft, and cut it into some sorry, cut it into some chunks here. Okay. All right, so the clay will come in this big plastic bag, but then we're going to store it differently, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. Here come the chunks we just made, and it comes really nice and soft, and you want to try to keep it that way. That's the important thing about storing it, is you really want to keep clay nice and soft when you're storing it, so it's nice and workable. Because if it's too hard to work, children aren't going to enjoy it, and if it's too nasty and slippery, then it's going to be really messy, and some children are not going to enjoy the messiness of that. Okay, so I'm working on a clay cloth here. This is a piece of canvas, and I actually just got this from the fabric store and just cut it. It's edged a little bit, but it's great because it keeps the surface clean, and you can just toss it in the washing machine. I know in some of the articles they suggest plastic, like a big black plastic over the table, or working on little wood or linoleum squares, and I've seen that too, but I really like this. And part of why I like it is it kind of absorbs the extra moisture in the clay. So sometimes with clay you have a little thing of water. You really want to be careful that there's not too much water, and honestly I wouldn't put out water with most ages of children, because then the tendency becomes to like squeeze and get as much water and get it nice and slippery, which is a great sensory experience, but it's not really a good clay working experience. But you know, as an adult, if you want to get it a little bit more moist, this is the way to do it, is just with a sponge. And I'm going to show you how to store it so that you're going to keep that moisture too. And the clay cloth is nice because if you get too much moisture, it takes it right out. So in the book and in the article, it suggests just starting with children with just their hands with clay, and I absolutely agree. I think it's just a great sensory experience for children to play with clay, and most of them just want to squeeze and shape it, especially young children. But then as they get older or get more experience, you can teach them some techniques. So a couple of quick techniques I just wanted to show you because they're in, I think the book, maybe the article, but they don't explain them a lot. I'm going to show you joining pieces and using slip really quickly. I'm sorry, using slurry, I believe is the correct term. So when you're putting together pieces of clay and you want them to stay, and this would be especially if you were going to fire something in a kiln. A lot of times children just make things and then we squish it back together just like we do at Play-Doh. But if you were going to make something and you wanted to join the pieces, you have to make it so that the pieces really squish together, and we do that by creating something called slurry. So I'm just going to take a little bit of clay here, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in it, and it says you can put this in a container with a brush, but for me I'm just using my finger works too. So you're going to make some really soft goopy clay here, And then the other thing you always want to do when you join some clay pieces together, whether it's a coil and you're making a coiled pot or just two pieces like putting legs on an animal, is you want to score it. And this is where actually having like a knife or a popsicle stick could come in really handy. But I'm just going to use my fingernails to kind of make some impressions and crosshatches in here. So you want to have both surfaces that you're going to join have some hash marks or just some texture to it, right? So there we go. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this squishy gooey clay and I'm going to put it right there. And then if I was really doing this, then I'd stick them together like that and really make sure they're stuck together well. And that is an example of joining using scoring and slurring. There we go. All right. So again, a lot of times when we're done with clay with children, we just squish it up into a nice ball. And the best way to store clay is to make these nice round balls like this, and then you, or better even have the kids, put a nice hole in it with their fingers, and then you're going to put it into, this is the best kind of container for clay, is one of these, like, I don't know what I'd call it, a cat litter bucket like this, and you just place it right in there. And then when you've got them all arranged in there, you're going to take the water and just pour it, and I'll show you, I'm just pouring it right into the little hole in the top, so you kind of slur it, put some over the top so that it's going into all these little holes. And what that is it gets just the right amount of moisture in there that when you put the lid on top and you save it, it's keeping the clay moist. Sometimes people also do that with like a wet towel over the top, and that's okay, but I found that a wet towel also can cause mold, and that's not so fun. And if you get mold, you can just scrape the mold off of the clay and use the stuff underneath it. But generally this method really gives the right amount of moisture to the whole container so that the clay stays soft. All right, so those are some clay basics, and there will be lots more in the articles and in the page for this week, and I really encourage you to try playing with some clay this week.